All right, if we could have all town meeting members, please take your seats. Just a reminder, the seats in the front at the tables are reserved for town meeting members. Seats in the rear of the auditorium for visitors and guests. And at this time, if you would, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you'd remain standing for just a moment, and we can have a moment of silence for our troops here and abroad protecting our freedoms. Thank you. Please be seated. All right, our tellers for tonight are Ms. Herman Durant from Precinct 1 and Mr. Rossetti from Precinct 2. If the tellers could please come forward and be sworn to their duties.
Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially perform all your duties imposed upon you as a teller for town meeting for the town of Saugus according to the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and our charter and bylaws?
I do. Thank you.
And at this time, if I could have the town meeting members, please raise your right hand and the tellers will take the count.
I'm sorry, what was that? 22, thank you.
So that's 41 plus the moderator. We do have a quorum. And at this time, I will ask the town clerk to call the roll.
Bartolo. Bell. Berube. Brown. Camuso. Chaporis. Connors is not here. Costello. Cottom. Cross. Curry. Davis. Delios. Doherty.
Here.
Dunn. Federico. Ferrari. Goodwin. Grabowski. Herman Durant. Hickman. Kelly. Long. Lepresti is not here. Manugian. McCarthy. McCullough. Meredith. Mareshi is not here. O'Brien. Paleshi. Palumba. Panetta. Panico. Paolini. Parlente. Rakinnick. Ring. Rossetti. Sacco. Shenna. Scazzarella. Shelkowski. Spencer. Strasnick. Taligan. Thompson. Wallace. Whitcomb. Worthley. 43 and 7. Those that I said are absent that were already up there did contact both Steve and I to let us know that they would not be here tonight.
Thank you, Helen. Okay. Please put all cell phones or other electronic devices in silent mode. Members are reminded that the use of electronic devices at town meeting is limited to viewing documents or websites pertinent to the business before us, and texting, gaming, or other uses are highly discouraged. When recognized to speak, all speakers are asked to step up to the podium. Town meeting members will please state their name and precinct represented. Other town officers or employees state their name and position in the town, and Saugus citizens just state your name and address. This way everyone at home can see and identify with who they're hearing. We will be observing the appropriate time limits for speakers per Section 208 of the town bylaws. We have 5 articles on the annual warrant remaining for this year, along with one remaining special within the annual containing 1 article. The special article requires a recommendation from the planning board, and it's my understanding they'll be meeting on May 29th on that. So we'll be addressing that special on Monday, June 2nd. We have recommendations from the Finance Committee on Articles 2, 6, 7, and 11, and a Planning Board recommendation on Article 21. We also have Article 16, which was tabled at our last meeting. Hopefully we can get through those tonight. Our next order of business tonight is Article 1, to hear and act on reports of committees, starting with the Finance Committee. Ken?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, Finance Committee has completed all their business for our town meeting. You have 4 financial articles in front of you that we voted on this past Wednesday. We hope that you support them all. We scrutinized them all closely, and we feel comfortable with the recommendations that we made. There is one article that's left that was tabled. When that comes up, I will come up and make a statement on it with an explanation on the reason why the motion was made in which we made. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Are there any other committees that wish to report out this evening? Okay, seeing none. As far as the order of business tonight, we do have someone here from the Historical Commission to speak on Article 16. I was asked by one of our members if we could take that up so that we can settle that and get her out. And then we need to, as far as the budget goes, before we can appropriate money for water and sewer, we need to set the rate, and we need to do that before we can do the budget. So I would entertain a motion at this time to take Articles 16, 11, 6, 7, and 2 in that order. And so made. Do I have a second? All in favor? Opposed? All right. With that, as a courtesy to the Finance Committee, Mr. Kelly takes Article 16 off of the table. 1 second. Article 16, to see if the Saugus Town Meeting will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $10,000 to the Historical Commission for the purpose of hiring an historic preservation consultant to prepare nominations for placing the Rolby School, the Center School, Town Hall Annex, and the Old Town Hall, Procopio American Legion Building in Saugus Center, with the possibility of adding the addition of the Revolutionary War Cemetery and the Soldiers and Sailors Monument as a historic district on the National Register of Historic Places. The Historical Commission will work with the town manager to expend these funds to accomplish this purpose. Do I have a second on Article 16? All right, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 16? Yes, Mr. Manoogian.
Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, Peter Manoogian, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 10. I ask that this be tabled so that the Historical Commission could have an opportunity to explain themselves. There was once a practice, whenever there was a special article that was going to come before the Finance Committee, that the maker of the special article would be contacted by the Finance Committee for public hearing, or to have that hearing. I don't know if that process took place here. I hope that it did. But regardless, I feel that we should give the Historical Commission an opportunity to explain what these funds would do, and to answer that very important question as to, will it make it more difficult to actually repair these buildings that and properties that the town owns. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manoogian. Any further discussion? I know we do have someone here from the Historical Commission. Hi, come on up. Just introduce yourself to the folks at home, and the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Jean Swanson from the Historical Commission. The purpose of this article is to initiate the process to formulate nomination the Saugus Center municipal area for inclusion on the National Register of Historic Places, specifically the Roby School, Town Hall Annex, which was formerly the Center School, and the Procopio American Legion building, formerly the Old Town Hall. Saugus has a number of properties listed on the National Register of Historic Places, like the Boardman House, Breakheart Reservation, Linfells Parkway, Saugus Ironworks, and the Saugus Town Hall. The process involves hiring a preservation consultant to research and develop information on the history, significance, and integrity of the buildings within the district. Once the documentation is complete, the nomination will be forwarded to the Massachusetts Historical Commission to review and approve. Once the approval occurs, the nomination is forwarded to the Keeper of the National Register and the National Park Service for acceptance and formal listing. The process usually takes 2 years. Based on Massachusetts Historical Commission advice, and for the fact that the 3 structures are considered a single land parcel, the article proposes an initial district encompassing the Roby School, Center School, and the Old Town Hall. Addition of the Revolutionary War Cemetery and the Civil War Monument will become an option. The intent is to keep the cost of to $10,000. The benefits of listing include formal recognition of the significance of the property in American history, access to federal, state, and nonprofit grants. Listing does not place any restrictions on what an owner may do with the property, up to and including demolition. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Any further discussion on Article 16? Kenny? Yep, one second. I'll get to you, Arthur.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, first I'd like to answer the town meeting member from Precinct 10, Mr. Manoogian. We do not contact any makers of any of the articles that come on either the annual or special town meeting. We do post them as we're going to review and vote on the special town meeting articles and the ATM articles. However, if we were contacted by the maker of the article requesting when we were going to take up their article, I would certainly accommodate them, and the committee would accommodate them on whatever date they could make it. But for us to say, we're going to, your article is going to be taken up the night that we meet, may or may not happen, because we may have other business that may precede it that's more important, or that we can't get through it. So we do entertain, if somebody calls or reaches out for us electronically, can you take up our article? Like the school department did this year on their enhancement programs. I had communications with the superintendent and the chairman of the school committee, and we coordinated so that they could be present for our review and vote on those articles. Next, just a little catch up on the reason why we made a referral on this. It was for a courtesy to the Historical Commission, because that specific article had no identifiable source of funding, made reference that they would coordinate with the town manager, who had no previous knowledge of anything about the article, couldn't give us any information on it. And then when we read the language in the article, as it said, as a historical district, and this is only a section of the article, as a historical district on the National Register of Historical Places, the committee is really concerned about what kind of a financial door that's opening on any of the repairs or replacements or improvements that would be done to any of these properties. We have no idea if it's going to cost $0 or if it's going to cost $1 million. So we had no information, and right now we have no legitimate information on that. So even though the Historical Commission is saying that there would be no excessive charges for any repairs, we're extremely concerned about where that might go, because we know how much money and what we've had to do with this town hall on all the repairs. It exacerbated the cost excessively because of its historical status. So the Finance Committee did have, concerns about it, and more than likely our appropriate recommendation should have been to not recommend, and that way this conversation would have came up at the last town meeting. However, the committee was, being cordial to the maker in that respect. I'll accept any questions if you need them.
Thank you, Ken. Mr. Grabowski.
Mr. Moderator, fellow town meeting members, Arthur Grabowski, Precinct 8. I thank Mr. DePardo for his explanation. I cannot support this article, and the main reason is it has no source of funding. Where's the $10,000 going to come from? It's up to the Finance Committee when they vet these articles and they do a great job at vetting all the spending articles that come before them to see how relative they are to the operations of the town. I say that the intent of the article is okay, but the procedure of the article is flawed, and it shouldn't get us support because there's no source of funding. Where are we going to get $10,000 from? And that's up to the Finance Committee, or the maker of the article, to come up with that, to present to us in a recommendation. And their recommendation is I'm not sure what exactly their recommendation is, but I can't support this article without a source of funding, and I hope that the town meeting agrees with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grabowski. Any further discussion on Article 16? Yes, sir. Again, just please identify yourself for the folks at home, and the floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Richard Lavoie. I live at 20 Central Street, Precinct 7. I am a 25-year veteran history teacher here in Saugus. I've been at Saugus High School for my entire career. I make it a point to teach Saugus history as it's built into the curriculum of United States history. When I grew up in this town, there were signs all over that said this was someplace special. And I think that if we can find a way to permanently earmark a historic district in the National Registry of Historic Places, it is absolutely worth the $10,000 to investigate. So I would ask the meeting members to try to support this. I'm no longer on town meeting, but if someone needs to make a motion to transfer funds, I would humbly ask that somebody do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion on Article 16? Yes, Mr. Manoogian.
Mr. Moderator, for decades, there was a practice in this town that anybody that had a financial article would get a call from the Finance Committee. If this Finance Committee has chosen not to do that anymore, that's fine. I'm not going to question it. Maybe you're satisfied with that. I'm not. I think people should get a courtesy phone call. We're going to have a hearing. When I was chairman of the Finance Committee, that's what we did. When Charlie F. Tosmas was chairman of the Finance Committee, that's what he did. It goes back decades. However, the issue of financing and the issue of conversation with the town manager, I do believe in. So I would like to make a motion to refer this to the town manager, and I would like the Historical Commission to sit down with the town manager so that he can be apprised of this, his questions can be answered, and if he believes in it, to jointly come before us again and to fund this. We are a historic town, and I'm glad that this is a historic building. I'm glad that the money was spent in a way consistent with architectural protocols consistent with historic buildings. So I don't think that's a bad thing, that this building was done right, and I don't think anybody in this town does either. So my motion would be to refer this to the town manager so that he could sit down with the board that he nominates. He puts them on that board. The selectmen confirm those appointees, and they should have that conversation and bring it back to us if he has a better understanding and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manoogian. All right, we have a motion to refer Article 16 to the town manager for further discussion with the Historical Society to come back before town meeting at another time. It's seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the question. All in favor of referring Article 16 to the town manager for further discussion with the Historical Society, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Article 16 is referred. All right, as a courtesy to the Finance Committee, Mr. Kelly moves Article 11 for consideration to see if the town will vote to increase water rates with all receipts to be held within the Water Enterprise Fund to be used exclusively for water expenses, water maintenance, water debt and interest, and water improvement programs, or take any other action relative thereto. Finance Committee recommendation was that the town vote a 6% increase in the water rates for fiscal year 2026, with the receipts to be held in the Water Enterprise Fund and to be used exclusively for water enterprise, water maintenance, and water debt and interest, and water improvement programs. Do I have a second on Article 11? All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion on Article 11? All right, seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation that the town vote a 6% increase in water rates for fiscal year 2026, with all receipts to be held in the Water Enterprise Fund and to be used exclusively for water enterprise, water maintenance, water debt and interest, and water improvement programs, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, where there is some separation, I'm just going to ask the town clerk if she would call the rolls on Article 11. A yes vote is in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation for 6%. A no vote is opposed.
Bartolo. No. Bell. Yes. Berube. Yes. Brown. No. Camuso. No. Chaporis. Yes. Connors is not here. Costello. Yes. Cottom. Yes. Cross. Yes. Curry. Yes. Davis. Yes. Delios. Yes. Doherty. Dunn. Yes. Federico. Yes. Ferrari. Yes. Goodwin. Grabowski. Yes. Herman Durant. Yes. Hickman. Yes. Kelly. Yes. Long. Yes. Lepresti is not here. Manoogian. Yes. McCarthy. Yes. McCullough. Yes. Meredith. Yes. Mareshi is not here. O'Brien. Yes. Paleshi is not here. Palumba. Yes. Panetta. Yes. Panico. Yes. Paolini. Yes. Paulente. No. Burkinnick. Yes. Ring. Rossetti. Yes. Sacco is not here. Shenna. Yes. Scazzarella. Yes. Shelkowski is not here. Spencer. Yes. Strasnick. Yes. Taligan. Thompson. Yes. Wallace. Yes. Whitcomb. Yes. Worthley. Yes. The yeas are 38, the nays are 5, absent are 6.
And with that, Article 11 has passed. As a courtesy to the Finance Committee, Mr. Kelly moves Article 6 for consideration. To see what sum of money the town will vote to raise for and appropriate for the Water Enterprise Fund for the ensuing fiscal year 2026. The recommendation, the Finance Committee voted to recommend the following sums to be appropriated for the operation of the Water Enterprise Fund for the ensuing year, fiscal year 2026. $482,311 for salaries, $7,487,864 expenses, $100,000 capital outlay, $709,434 indirect cost, and $27,273 in transfer out to OPEB, other post-employee benefits, for a total of $8,806,883. Total fiscal year 26 Water Enterprise Fund appropriation, $8,657,578 of the funded from the Water Enterprise Fund revenue, $149,305 to come from retained earnings. $709,435 is to be appropriated in the general fund by Water Enterprise Fund revenue for indirect costs. Do I have a second on Article 6? All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion on Article 6? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation for a total fund appropriation of $8,806,883, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Article 6 is passed. As a courtesy to the Finance Committee, Mr. Kelly moves Article 7 for consideration, to see what sum of money the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the Sewer Enterprise Fund for the ensuing fiscal year 2026. The Finance Committee voted to recommend the following sums be appropriated for the operation of the Sewer Enterprise Fund for the ensuing fiscal year 2026. $404,112 in salaries, $5,710,255 expenses, $80,000 capital outlay, $690,780 for indirect costs, and $56,696 transfer out to other post-employee benefits, for a total of $6,941,843 total fiscal year 2026 Sewer Enterprise Fund appropriation. $6,314,807 funded from the Sewer Enterprise Fund revenue, $627,036 to come from retained earnings, and $690,780 is to be appropriated in the general fund by Sewer Enterprise Fund revenue for indirect costs. Do I have a second on Article 7? Second. All right, Article 7, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation to fund the Sewer Enterprise Fund appropriation for $6,941,843, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Article 7 has passed. All right. All right, as a courtesy to the Finance Committee, Mr. Kelly moves Article 2 for consideration. To see what sum of money the town will vote to raise and appropriate for town charges for the ensuing fiscal year, 2026. The Finance Committee voted to recommend the sum of $119,518,511 for town charges for the ensuing fiscal year 2026 as follows. Department Board of Selectmen, salaries $360. Expenses $6,075. Department total $80,435. Town manager, salary $514,479. Expenses $638,200. Department total $1,152,679. Finance committee, salary $5,000. Expenses $100,000. Department total $105,000. Accounting, salaries $559,470. Expenses $140,000. Department total $699,470. Assessors, salary $250,773. Expenses $213,825. Department total $464,598. Treasurer collector, salary $476,304. Expenses $147,125. Department total $623,429. Legal counsel, salary $75,559. Expenses, $876,500. Department total, $952,059. Human Resources, $305,972. Expenses, $54,250. Total, $360,222. Information Technology, expenses, $532,500. Total, same. Town Clerk, salary, $178,058. Expenses, $14,800. Total, $192,858. Election and registration, salary, $152,772. Expenses, $57,895. Department total, $210,667. Conservation Commission, salary, $62,447. Expenses, $4,270. Total, $66,717. Planning Board, salary, $43,674. Expenses, $11,630. Total, $55,304. Board of Appeals, $32,421. Salaries, expenses, $8,200. Total expenses, $40,621. Planning and Economic Development, salary, $220,332. Expenses, $48,320. Total, $268,652. Police Department, salaries, $10,105,927. Expenses, $590,455. Total, $10,696,382. Fire Department, salaries, $831,161. Expenses, $457,300. Total, $7,288,461. Building Inspection, salary, $332,594. Expenses, $110,400. Total, $442,994. Gas and Plumbing Inspection, salaries, $89,166. Expenses, $4,950. Department total, $94,116. Weights and Measures, salary, $14,791. Expenses, $2,050. Total, $16,841. Electrical Inspection, salary, $108,906. Expenses, $4,500. Total, $113,406. Emergency Management, salary, $15,000. Expenses, $15,000. Total, $30,000. Animal Control, salary, $124,512. Expenses, $7,710. Total, $132,222. Harbor Master, expenses, $5,000. Total, same. Dispatcher, salary, $1,129,635. Expenses, $10,000. Total, $1,139,635. Regional School Assessment, expenses, $3,434,798. Total, same. DPW Administration, salary, $506,500. Expenses, $8,800. Total, $515,300. DPW Forestry, salary, $190,064. Expenses, $165,000. Total, $355,064. DPW Highway, salary, $409,703. Expenses, $885,500. Total, $1,295,203. DPW Snow and Ice, salary, $20,000. Expenses, $165,000. Total, $185,000. DPW Motor Pool, salary, $91,240. Expenses, $286,800. Total, $378,041. Street lighting, expenses, $670,000. Total, same. Waste collection, salary, $150,054. Expenses, $4,422,300. Total, $4,572,354. DPW Cemetery, Salary, $270,342. Expenses, $33,250. Total, $303,592. DPW Parks, salary, $206,999. Expenses, $445,000. Total, $651,999. DPW Capital, expenses, $75,000. Total, same. Engineering Department, salary, $499,904. Expenses, $46,450. Total, $546,354. Building Maintenance, salary, $848,695. Expenses, $1,263,380. Total, $2,112,075. Building Maintenance Capital, expenses, $500,000. Total, same. Health Department, salary, $435,362. Expenses, $42,400. Total, $477,762. Council on Aging, salary, $327,619. Total, same. Veteran Services, salary, $57,911. Expenses, $240,808. Total, $294,719. Library, salary, $701,075. Expenses, $186,527. Total, $887,602. Youth and Recreation, salary, $141,104. Expenses, $15,600. Total, $156,704. Lobsterman's Landing, salary, $5,361. Expenses, $12,500. Total, $17,861. Celebrations, $2,000. Debt service, principal, $4,709,540. Employee benefits, $27,133,765. Other insurance, $1,892,211. And transfers, other financing sources, $1,808,245. Total municipal departments, $26,565,247 for salary, $58,184,729 expenses, for a total of $84,749,976. School Department, $34,768,535. Total town operating budget for fiscal year 2026, $119,518,511. Do I have a second on Article 2? Second. All right, Article 2, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Oh, yes, in the rear. If you would, just introduce yourself to the folks at home, and the floor is yours, sir.
Hello, I'm Kevin Fontanella. I'm an employee at Saugus Public Schools. I've been teaching in Saugus for 26 years. I am here to humbly ask the town meeting to not follow the FinCom recommendation and to increase the allocation to the school committee for the school committee budget for the budget that was voted and approved by the school committee. I'm just gonna, now we can all throw different numbers here. I'm just gonna throw some very simple factual numbers that reveal why I'm asking what I'm asking. Right now, there are about 2,830 students in the Saugus Public Schools. That is pre-K through senior year. Fiscal year 2019, I'm going before COVID. Like, I'm not even going to talk about the COVID comparison. Before COVID, we had about 2,000 less students, around 2,600 kids. So we have 200 more students right now than we did 5 years ago, before COVID hit us. We have about 10 less FTEs or fully employed teachers. This includes nurses, guidance counselors, other basic, any full-time employee in the teaching staff. I just don't think it makes sense when you have increased student enrollment, you should also have increased teachers to help with that. Now, if the town did not have the financial resources to accommodate this, I would understand. But since the Chapter 70 funding formula has changed in the state of Massachusetts, Saugus has done better than comparable communities that surround us. At this point, Saugus has gotten a 112% increase in Chapter 70 funding that is supposed to be allocated to our high-need students, students with special education services, and kids that are in poverty. That money is going to keep coming to the town of Saugus. This number is about 69% higher than surrounding communities. I believe that if you have the resources, if you have the money, that you should invest in your future. And the bottom line is, at this point, right now, in terms of Saugus's fiscal health, I think Saugus has done a phenomenal job with its financial resources. Over the last 5 years, Saugus has been very fiscally conservative, I think in a good way, and has allocated a pretty good amount of free cash and a good amount of money to the stabilization fund. At this point, the free cash and stabilization is close to 20% of the operating budget in the town of Saugus. As a person who, I have a family, a lot of us have families. If we have extra cash, we don't just put it under a mattress and let it sit there. Well, maybe some of you do, but I don't. I invest it. I think it's important to invest the extra money that we have into our town and into our schools. And in the end, I think that our students' future and the resources in our school system is something that these financial resources that the town of Saugus has should be going towards. I believe this not only as a teacher, I also believe this as a moral example for the students that go to Saugus. So what I respectfully ask, what I respectfully request, is that a town meeting representative, one of the 50 town meeting members that were elected by the town of Saugus, would make a motion to fully fund our schools by amending the budget so that it reflects the school committee's recommended budget that they voted and approved. The school committee members are democratically elected by the town of Saugus. Their job, they only have 3 responsibilities. One of those responsibilities is to make a budget and to vote on that budget. That's what the town of Saugus elected them for. I'm not even asking for a penny more than what the school committee asked for. I am just asking for town meeting to fund the budget that the school committee voted for and approved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Any further discussion on Article 2? Mr. Manoogian.
Moderator, relative to the school committee budget, I've looked it over, and I noticed that the legal line item is $55,000. In FY24, it was proposed to be 55, but it was actually 231,434, or 176,434 over what was budgeted, and that is in addition to what we voted last week, which was, I believe, another just shy of $50,000 to fill in. One must assume that this money was spent in the defense of the school committee in their termination of the former superintendent, Erin McMahon. I'm not questioning what they did, why they did, how they did. What I'm questioning is, and I'd like an answer from someone in the school department this time, as to where's the money going to come from for what Todd and Weld, a very expensive law firm in Boston, states in February 25, an arbitrator determined that the Saugus School Committee failed to establish good cause for terminating a school superintendent and awarded the firm's client substantial lost wages and benefits. Substantial. Where is that award reflected in this budget? I think we need to know that as a community. Is she sitting back, waiting for the check to come in the mail? Is there some discussion about parceling this out over several years for an additional amount of money so that it can be buried in this budget? I would like someone from the school committee. This is not a court judgment. This is an arbitrator's award, and it's not shielded from public discovery. And this is the time to discover that. So I'm asking the superintendent, the chairman of the school committee, a member of the school committee, vice chairman I see is here, to get up here and explain how is that award going to be funded. I don't think she's sitting back waiting for a decision. I'm sure there's something going on, and I'd like to know if it's in this budget that the town is, what is it, $1 million more over last year that you're giving? Plus the money last week. So my question has to do with that award.
Thank you, Mr. Manugian. Yes. Just identify yourself for the folks at home, and the floor is yours.
Vincent Serino, Chairman of the School Committee. To answer your question, this is not settled. It's a remediation. We'd rather not say it. We'd rather not put ourselves out there and expose ourselves to more scrutiny from the arbitrator. So there is no award right now. So that's why we haven't said anything. That's why it's not in the budget. So if you'd like to know, you can certainly ask the questions anytime. We're pretty open to taking questions. We're pretty open to answering in them. So.
Is there a provision to fund it when the award gets settled? Are we going to do that?
Well, when the award gets settled, we'll do it then. We're not going to speculate. We're not going to put out there what we're going to do or what we're going to pay when this thing is not settled. There's a lot of numbers being thrown out there. None of them are true. So that's what I'd like to say.
Thank you, Mr. Serino.
Yep.
And, I'm sorry? Okay, I'd need two things. First of all, if you could come up, grab a sheet. That would have to be in writing. And in the motion, you'd need to identify number one, an amount. You can't just say fully funded. And number two, a source of funding. In other words, if the Finance Committee and Board of Selectmen gave us a balanced budget, that's what we have to give to the town manager. So if you're giving to someone, you got to take from someone. Identify where that is. While we're awaiting that, any other discussion? Yes, Ms. Herman Durant.
Good evening, Stacy Herman Durant from Precinct 1. I noticed the last 2 pages of the budget contain grant-funded positions. With the recent cuts in federal grants to K-12 education, are any of these positions in jeopardy of the possibility of being cut? And if so, where would this money come from?
Thank you, Ms. Durant. Any further? Yes, the first young lady in the rear here.
Good evening. My name is Hannah Duong from 315 Central Street.
I'm Brianna Feldman, and I live at 28 Emery Street. My name is Olivia Chason, and I live at 5 Kennedy Drive.
I'm Nicholas Shawn. I live at 5 Evans Street in Saugus.
And we're the president, treasurer, and representative of our senior class at Saugus High School. We wanted to express our concerns about the lack of funding that the Finance Committee is recommending for our school system. Over the past 4 years, we have benefited from a school system that has given standard classes, engaging sports, and great extracurriculars, with all of us being members of the class board and the National Honor Society.
Nevertheless, we have not been able to take elective courses because there are not enough teachers in this building to teach these classes. We have friends in other school systems that have greater opportunities because their school systems have more funding. When you are looking to cut spending, any member of any family would say that we should cut funding on luxuries and keep spending on necessities. Are you saying that a high-quality public education is a luxury? I disagree. I think it's a necessity, and I hope that our town meeting members will agree with me that our school system should be treated as such. As Saugus High School students, we have some personal experiences that we think that the Saugus public school system should have more sufficient funding.
With the hypothetical drastic budget decrease, multiple teachers and staff would have to be laid off. And that being said, school at the moment is already lacking the amount of teachers we truly need to flourish. There are an abundance of kids just roaming around our hallways in school aimlessly, knowing that there will be no teacher around to stop them, which makes it hard for the dedicated students to learn to their fullest extent. With this additional money, we could provide more staff and more programs for Saugus students.
Additionally, taking AP classes offers students the opportunity to earn college credit while still in high school, helping families, especially low-income ones like myself, in saving significantly on future tuition costs. Unlike many other schools, ours offers fewer AP courses, and cutting the spending budgets would only worsen this gap. This issue causes students to lose access to rigorous coursework that prepares them for college and strengthens their applications. Like myself, I've seen how AP courses have helped me grow by the way I think, the way I write, and the way I analyze things, helping me better prepare my future after high school. Expanding and not reducing support for AP teachers and teachers in general is essential to ensuring that all students, regardless of their background, have a fair shot at academic and financial success.
To add on, in my 13 years in the Saugus public school system, I have built many important connections with my teachers, which I will hold with me for the rest of my life. Every Saugus teacher I have had the pleasure of learning from has went above and beyond to make sure their students had an efficient and pleasurable learning experience, even if it meant staying after hours to make sure students were overqualified for opportunities. It is sad as a student to have to see my teachers standing here today, as the work they put in for their students means the world to many Saugus citizens. Please consider fully funding the school budget by appropriating the money that the school committee has asked for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, students, for your thoughtful and well-presented input. Okay, we have an amendment presented by Mr. Palante to amend the budget to fully fund the school budget according to the school committee recommendations, using free cash as the source of income, and amend the motion by striking out the amount $34,768,535 and replacing it with $36,272,973 with the difference to come from free cash. Do we have a second on the motion? All right, the amendment is made and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Yes, Mr. Grabowski.
Mr. Moderator, fellow town meeting members, Arthur Grabowski, Precinct 8. I cannot support this amendment. First of all, I have to give kudos to the town manager and the finance committee. We have a balanced budget. We just can't come up here in 5 minutes and have somebody make a motion to take money out of free cash. Where's the money coming from? The money is already allocated in the budget, and I trust the town manager and the finance committee that have perused this budget, have come up with a financial plan for this town. If anybody looks at other towns around us, there are overrides. There are operational overrides all over this community, all over this area. Many of them are being voted down by the community, but that's their decision. We don't have an override. We haven't had the question of an override. We are in good financial shape, and I don't see how any member of this town meeting in 5 minutes can sit at a table and come up with some kind of off-the-wall plan to take free cash. Free cash has already been allocated. Everything, every dime that the town has taken in for this coming fiscal year is already allocated. There is no money. If you want to cut money out of somebody else's budget, that's what you'd have to do. And again, the town manager, with his department heads, has vetted this budget up and down for months. I don't think anybody in this town meeting has the financial acumen to question the budget that's been presented to us today. Yeah, it's not 100%, but I'm sure the police department, I'm sure the fire department, I'm sure that many other departments in this town under the same situation might say, well, geez, I think I need more money. I think that's been vetted quite extensively by the town administration. So I can't support just this ethereal area to take money out of free cash. I don't think it's wise, and I think we support the budget that's been presented to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grabowski. Yes, Mr. Palante.
Matthew Palante, Precinct 2. Last week I pointed out we had over $5 million in free cash. Every year, excuse me, we have over $4 or $5 million in free cash. That money's coming from jobs we're not filling that we continue to budget for every year. There's money out there. If you look at the school committee's budget, and most of the increases are for special ed. There's a lot of SEL, I believe it is. There's a lot of increases for special education. We send out a lot of children in this school to other communities to get educated because we don't have the resources here. If we're asking for more resources for special ed, we should be providing that. They said 200 more students this year, but yet no increase. There's other departments that ask for increase during the budget year that get the increases. If we invested as much money as we did into that school, we should be invested it into the school. We should continue to invest into the school, into the teachers, and into the students, because ultimately that's the future of this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palante. Mr. Hashem.
Thank you, Mike Hashem, Superintendent of Schools and Precinct 3. So I just had a couple talking points because I did want to explain what the asks were so you realize it. As has already been previously stated, our enrollment has gone up drastically over the last handful of years. Back in FY22, our enrollment was 2,436. And right now, as we sit, it's 2,831. So we've gone up almost 400 students. In FY22, we had 357 employees. The ask in FY26 is to be 353 employees. And for full-time employees in FY22, it was 349, and this year's ask is that we be at 345. The cost has gone up. I'm not denying that. I'd like to thank the Finance Committee for supporting us and the town manager and everybody here. But I did want to explain that. I did also want to explain some of the positions that were involved in grants are no longer there. ESSER funds, as everybody is aware, have come and gone. Way prior to me having anything to do with this role, the administration did take good care in making sure that the ESSER funds were minimally used for salaries and staff. We secured just under $3 million worth of curriculum, pre-K to 12, all the curriculum materials for all of the subject areas, as well as professional development and training for the staff. So that was a huge investment for the schools that I think was done. I can't take any credit because I wasn't part of it, other than being a teacher at the time, but they did do a lot of good with using the ESSER funds. We did use the ESSER funds to transition from half-day kindergarten to all-day kindergarten free for all students, and what happened was it went from a revolving fund into the ESSER and then out of ESSER. Before last year, I think it was in FY23, 6 positions for kindergarten, 3 teachers and 3 paraprofessionals were added to the LEA. So that's where some of the positions came from. And then the other thing was there has been, last year we added 10 positions that we outlined in detail that we were gonna add. And that deals with this, and this is a number that I think supplied with you. It's in the sheet that has the color coding with it. In FY22, we had, of the 2,436 students, 657 of them had a strong documented need. That would mean they're ELL, they have a 504 or an IEP, which means they're dealing with disabilities, special education, or English language attainment. The number was 657. Now, out of the 2,831, 1,302 of the students fit in one or more of those boxes. So we are dealing with a huge student needs population. So that's why last year when I put together the budget, most of the asks were not traditional classroom asks, they were support staff and services. So we added 2 special ed teachers, 3 special ed paras, an ELL teacher, 2 adjustment counselors. We did add a music teacher to the BSA, and we did add an assistant principal to the Veterans Early Learning Center. But those were all laid out in the budget there, so that's why we jumped up with the numbers that we jumped up with. There was one other grant, and then I'll sit down. There was one other grant that we had recently. It was called the Early College Grant, the Early College Program, where we had 6 or 7 full-time staff members that were in that grant. That grant dried up. We did not secure the grant. We dissolved the position. All those positions were dissolved and were not integrated into the LEA. There were some staff members that had those positions, and then they sought out a vacant position in a different department, in a different position, whether it be paraprofessional, clerk, teacher, and they now are still working for us. But those 6 positions, those 6 roles have all been eliminated because, like was said, the grants have dried up a little bit. But I do want to thank the Finance Committee and the Town Manager for their thoughtfulness. I do thank them for the $1 million over what we got last year. And again, I would gladly want more. I understand that, but I do understand what you're dealing with. But I do wish that you consider it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hashem. Any further discussion on Article 2? Yes. Please identify yourself for the folks at home, and the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Lori Fossey. I live at 6 Sunset Drive. I'm in Precinct 5.
If you
Lynn
would.
Tall, 27 Holland Street.
Ladies. I'm sorry, not to, if you would, just step right into the microphone so everyone can hear you. Thank you.
All right, take two. My name is Lori Fossey. I live at 6 Sunset Drive. I'm in Precinct 5.
I am Lynn Tall, 27 Holland Street. No idea what precinct that is.
That's okay.
Sorry.
I'm a parent in Saugus. I have a 3rd grader, a 6th grader, and a sophomore in the high school. And I am here because I am concerned that we are not passing unable to recommend passing the school committee's fully funded budget. As a parent, I see the needs that are in all 3 buildings, and I don't think there's a lot of fluff that's been asked for. And I think it would be important to fund it. It benefits the whole community when we have good education in Saugus.
Lori and I have a unique perspective too from a lot of parents because she is president of the PTO at the BSA. I am chairperson of the 5th grade PTO, so these are rising 6th graders, and it has been a challenge, I mean, all year, but specifically since COVID. Our 5th graders this year were impacted by COVID in kindergarten. So their social emotional was interrupted, their social emotional learning. It was just cut short February of 2020. There was nothing in place at the time, so kindergarten just kind of ended early. 1st grade, they didn't get to meet their classmates in person until after April break. So most of the year had gone by. Then they finally got to meet their classmates, but only half at a time. Half were home, half were in the class, and they would rotate. You know, they had their pods. And then they went to the BSA for 2nd grade. Everything was open. All the little neighborhood schools were gone. So those social, emotional learning opportunities were gone. And what we have is a revolving door of principals. We've had 3 principals in 4 years, as you know. And we have short-staffed, the BSA specifically, that's the only school I'm familiar with at the moment. So, but I understand it's an everywhere problem, not just a Saugus problem, but where we have the opportunity and we do have funds, it's almost embarrassing that we wouldn't use them to help these kids. My kid in the 5th grade is on an IEP, and he has nobody. He has a counselor that he can see twice a week if she's free. It's in his IEP that there are stipulations in that IEP, and he's not receiving them because we don't have the support for him. And so I do take it personally, and I'm upset that it's even a question that we wouldn't fund this budget.
So we just encourage you to pass the motion.
Thank you, ladies. Any further discussion on the amendment to Article 2? Yes, Mr. Cogliano.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. For the record, Anthony Cogliano, 310 Lincoln Ave, Saugus, member of the Board of Selectmen. I guess I just have one question to you, Mr. Superintendent. Can we properly educate our children with the money that's recommended?
Thank you, Mr. Cogliano.
As the person in charge of the school system, I'm not going to lie and say that we won't educate the students if we don't get the funding, because that's, we're resourceful, we'll do what we need to do in order to make things work, and we do understand, but so I'm not going to say that we can't. It's not ideal, but I do also want to thank the town manager and the finance committee and everybody else and the town meeting members for last week recommending that we get the enrichment program that we did need. So I apologize for not mentioning that earlier. So I did want to thank you for that as well. But yes.
Thank you, Mr. Hashem. Any further discussion on the amendment to Article 2? Yes, Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. town meeting members, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to sort of make sure everybody understands this. To allocate and use free cash is a problem. It's against the financial management policies we have. I just had a rating call with the S&P, I don't know, a week or two ago. That's one of the questions they ask on every single call. Has town meeting taking a vote that is contrary to the financial management policies? Have they used free cash or stabilization money in the operating budget to fund an operating budget that's a reoccurring expense? So financially, this is irresponsible. It's just reckless. And it's nothing to do with emotions, but the issue is, once you allocate those, and people have been around here for a while, and some of these school teachers have been here for a long time in Saugus, we had negative free cash here. We had issues because we started using free cash. We'd have a meeting, we'd have a budget freeze and have a meeting in January and have to allocate money from free cash to pay for structural deficits. So I would highly recommend using free cash. And another reason for this is that whatever the balance is here, if you're looking to add an additional 1.4 million on top of the 1.750 that we've already been allocated, or that's here to be allocated. You then come here next year, you now have to be $2.4 million over this budget. It's not sustainable. And, you know, the budgeting that they do at the schools is different than the budgeting we do here on this side of town. I think everybody sort of knows that. We hope that it's better, and we hope that money equals education, but it doesn't always do that. I think we allocated quite a bit of money last year, and the question is, what did we do with the money in the schools last year? And you know, I think that if for whatever reason this article is supported, this will have an effect on the bond rating. No question about it. This is what they look for. This is what goes on in other communities when they start going down a path. If the schools are unsustainable or what their growth is, other districts, and someone brought it up here, they're looking at operational overrides that are permanent. So you let the residents and everybody decide on permanently funding the schools to a certain level that they feel that they need. And I'm not saying they don't need it, but you have to spend within your means. That's why the town was a train wreck 14 years ago. An absolute train wreck. We're on the verge of receivership. So if for some reason they want to fund this, I'd be calling a special, because the cuts have to be made within the operating budget. So police, fire, library, senior center, those are the budgets for reoccurring operating costs. If that's the wishes of town meeting, that's where the money has to come from, not from free cash. It has to come from your operating budget. You have to make cuts to fund different departments. And I've said this publicly before. And people, I think, take it for granted. The chiefs are here, I think, still, from the police and fire, DPW. We sit down in a private room and have hearings and discussions with the finance team and myself. Their ask isn't what they're getting. Their ask is higher. But one of the things that we don't do, and I don't allow to happen, is for a police or fire department to ask for monies that they want and say that we want $5 million, and we're only able to afford to give them $3 million. Because at the end of the day, it erodes confidence in the public, and then people say, well, I'm not really safe if they're not getting the money they asked for. A lot of these asks are, you know, I don't begin to be an educator. I'm supportive of the schools, but you have to spend within your means, and if we don't have those monies, then we need to look at, the schools should look at some sort of an, debt exclusion, an override. Just like when we needed new facilities, we went to the public and asked for a debt exclusion, and we were able to do that. But this is reckless and irresponsible. This is something we do for a living. I'm not a teacher, I'm not a firefighter, I'm not a police officer anymore. What I do is finances, and I'm a town manager. And we have a financial management policy that's been adopted. To do something contrary to that, this is what they look for, and this is the beginning of the end, where you start sliding and we end up in the same position we were because we're spending beyond our means. Again, if this for some reason passes, we'll have to be back here for a special to make cuts in the operating budget of the town. So that we need to be, that's not a threat, that's what you have to do. You have to spend less than what you're taking in. You cannot overspend. And then next year, we're gonna be looking at the same thing. So if it's $2.5 million this year, that's the starting point for another $2.5 million next year. It's not sustainable. We've talked about this at the Finance Committee over the years. We've talked to the schools. I've been through maybe 5 or 6 superintendents. You know, the question I always ask, you know, I think people don't understand this, the health insurance, the $28 million in indirect costs, those are bills that are being sent directly to the town that the town's paying on behalf of the schools. The health insurance, there's nothing that says that we have to pay it. The town pays that within our budget. It's $1 million increase for the school employees this year. So there's an additional $1 million. There's an additional $750,000 last year, the last week that we allocated. So those are the things to consider. Obviously, you have tough decisions to make. You know, unfortunately, this isn't emotional for some and not for others, but this is not the right article to be supported using free cash. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Palante.
Just a few points. The increases to the employees, to the teachers, they're based on the contract negotiations that were made through the town manager's office. So if the teachers are getting increases, it's because of their contract that was agreed on through the town. Also, too, the free cash money, we had over $5 million in free cash. That money comes from line items in our budget that didn't get used last year. And some of those line items, some of those jobs haven't been filled in years. Look at the town website. Look at those job openings that have been there for years. That's where this free cash is coming from. It's coming from line items that don't actually get used. So we put them in the budget, we pass the budget, and then it doesn't get used, and it turns to free cash at the end of the year. You know, at the end of the day, there's money here. You know, there is money in this town. We are repeatedly told how fiscally strong we are in this community. Like everything else, costs are going up. We have to support the schools, we have to support the teachers, and we have to support the students. It's simple. You know, and in the bigger picture, you know, $2.6 million, it sounds like a lot of money, but it isn't when you're talking about funding schools and teachers and students and their needs. So, you know, free cash, it comes from line items that aren't getting used. So maybe the more creative motion is to send it back to the Finance Committee to find money somewhere. Because if it's not going to pass through free cash, and if it does pass, cut some of those line items out that we aren't using anyways. Don't cut from police and fire. You're not going to do that anyways. There's items in our budget that can be cut that have been there for years that don't get filled, positions that don't get filled. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palante. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Moderator, thank you. Town meeting members, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to go back and forth. The information that he's talking about, the last speaker has no idea what he's talking about. I mean, it's embarrassing. And to have somebody to come out here and try to act like they do, it bothers me because this is what I do for a living. I'm a professional, and I try to do the best I can for the town. I don't have anything to do with the teachers' contracts. I do not settle teachers' contracts. I don't negotiate teacher contracts. So it's not what the town and the town manager did as far as paying for teachers' contracts. Misinformation. Free cash is a calculation of all kinds of things. It's not just positions that weren't filled, whether it's in the schools or the town. But I'm not going to go back and forth. I just need to correct misinformation that's always put out. It needs to be corrected so people know what they're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any further discussion on the amendment? Kenny, please.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, it's important for this committee, for a town meeting to understand that you never, ever, ever use single source of funding for operational expenses. It's bad business practice. It's frowned upon by the financial industry out there. Standard & Poor's Global comments about it all the time in their management letter, stating that we are not using single source, one-time source of funding for operational budgets. The surrounding communities have done that, and they're in trouble. They're now going for overrides that are failing, and they're making significant cuts throughout the entire operational budget, which touches every budget. Strongly recommend that you don't support using single source funding for an operational budget, which is not sustainable, and that operational budget is reoccurring expenses for both salary and expenses. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion on the amendment to Article 2? Yes, sir.
Richard Lavoie, 20 Central Street. I'm speaking on behalf of the amendment, obviously, as a teacher in the system, but also as a resident, a taxpayer, a property owner, and a former town meeting member. And, you know, I think in one sense the amendment to me speaks to the essence of what town meeting is supposed to be. We have a function in town meeting, and that is to vote the budget. But we've been here discussing this article for well over an hour, and previous speakers have gotten up and said, you know, we had a balanced budget. We shouldn't go against the balanced budget. Finance committee balanced the budget for us. Manager endorsed their recommendations. The finance committee is not elected. The manager isn't elected. Town meeting is elected. And so if the will of the populace is to finance the school department fully, then that's the will of the public. You are the representation of the public, and that is your duty. So I ask you to endorse this amendment, to vote in favor of it, and to fully fund our school system for the ensuing year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malloy. Further discussion on the amendment to Article 2? All right, seeing none, we're going to call the question. We're voting now not on the budget, but on the amendment. So we have a request for a roll call vote, Madam Clerk. So a yes vote when your name is called is in favor of amending the budget to fully fund the school committee recommendation in the amount of $36,272,973, which would replace the $34,768,535 currently in the article, with the source of funding being free cash. So all in favor, when the clerk calls your name, say aye or yes. All opposed, no or nay.
Bartolo. Bell. Berube. Brown. Camuso. Japoris. Connors is not here. Costello. Cottom. Cross. Curry. Davis. Delios. Doherty, Dunn. Federico. Ferrari. Goodwin. Grabowski. Herman Durant. Hickman. Kelly. Long. Lepresti is not here. Manugian. McCarthy. McCullough. Meredith. Mareshi is not here. O'Brien. Paleshi is not here. Palumba. Panetta. Panico. Paolini. Paulente. Rickinnick. Ring. Rossetti. Sacco is not here. Shenna. Scazzarella. She abstained. Shelkowski is not here. Spencer. Strasnick. Taligan. Thompson. Wallace. Whitcomb. Worthley. I have 8 yeas, 34 nays, 6 absent, and 1 abstain.
So with that, the amendment to Article 2 has failed. Do we have any further discussion on the original Article 2 as recommended by the Finance Committee? Yes, I see a hand back here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Maria Coriglio. I'm a paraprofessional at the Veterans. And this is Crystal. She's also a paraprofessional. I would like to say how disappointed I am in this vote. I would think that we would try to put the children first before the money. I was told that the money is there. Me personally, I have 14. I'm in sub-separate. I have 14 autistic children that I support every day. There's 4 paras. We can't get any help because when you pay peanuts, you're going to get monkeys, basically. And you're not paying enough for the teachers to come or the paras to come and support these children that need the help. If you look at how much paras make, you can't live off of that. It's not realistic. All these paras have 2, 3 jobs to support everyday life. So I didn't think there was a lot. I'm talking just for the paras. I didn't think it was a lot to ask to try to get a little more, to have a normal cost of living, and I guess the money, the budget, it's not there, and I'm very disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm Crystal Chrysanthopoulos, and I'm 65 Harrison Ave. I just wanted to say that I'm a para too, and I'm sub-separate for special needs children. But our schools are understaffed, and we're overcrowded. Air conditions are broken, heat's broken. We're breaking the law with a lot of our IEPs. You're supposed to, those are law-abiding documents. And they're not being fulfilled because we don't have enough staff. And these kids are needy, and they need these requirements. I'm just disappointed. I just want to look at everybody that did that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. for your comments. Any further discussion on Article 2? Yes. Yeah, just let the people know who they're hearing.
So, Laurie Fossey, 6 Sunset Drive. So, absolutely can understand why, with that particular motion, perhaps we're not going to fund. I would ask again, perhaps, that someone else maybe makes a motion and we can figure out the funding a different way. And this is the point that I just want to make, is if we're going to, Mr. Crabtree came up and talked about in his professional opinion. And I guess what I would say is that budget was created by people who do this every day professionally. It is taking in contractual obligations. It's trying to serve students. It's problematic, but there's gotta be a way somewhere to try to find some funding to bridge the gap so that the school committee's approved budget and what is the balanced budget for the town can meet a little bit more. Absolutely was an increase, and I understand everyone put time and effort into finding that, but the next school year will be problematic without the funding. And that, just as a point, was very carefully curated and passed and voted on by elected officials, or voted in officials from the school committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on Article 2. We have a motion on the floor to refer the budget back to the Finance Committee and Town Manager. Do I have a second on the motion? All right, moved and seconded. Discussion. Kenny? You had your hand up? Any discussion on the motion to refer? Kenny?
You know, I don't know parliamentary process. I'm going to lean on maybe Peter Manoogian from Precinct 10. But we were once asked to find money for the school, for the public library, and that was out of our purview. It's not in the charter for us to find money for any department. So sending it back to us, I don't see us acting on that, you know. We've already made a recommendation. But like I say, I don't know the charter as well as others, but I'm pretty sure that there needs to be a mechanism for it to come in front of us. I would, like I say, I would ask if Peter Manoogian knows anything about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, ladies and gentlemen, the charter requires that any article in the town meeting, any financial article, has to be referred to the Finance Committee for their review. They have to set up a public hearing and make a recommendation. There is no mechanism in the charter that requires them to find money, as the chairman of the FinCom has suggested. They've had their hearing, they've published notice of the hearing, they've made their recommendations, so in my opinion, they've fulfilled their obligations under the provisions of the charter. If they choose not to rehear it, and again, there's nothing in the charter that requires them to do so, I would say, in my opinion, they've fulfilled their obligation and legal requirement under the town charter.
So based on that opinion, I would say that the motion to refer it back to the Finance Committee would be out of order, because they're not in a position to re-accept it and meet your request.
Mr. Moderator, just to clarify my motion, it wasn't for the Finance Committee to find money so that the school and the Finance Committee can meet and work together to come up with solutions.
The school and the Finance Committee have met, and that's the point. They've fulfilled their obligation on the budget, on this article for this year. That's just kicking the can around at this point. Any other discussion on Article 2? Okay, hearing none, I will call for the question. All in favor, and I will ask for a roll call vote on this if you would, Madam Clerk. All in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation for a budget of $119,518,511, broken down municipal departments salary $26,565,247, expenses $58,184,729, for a total of $84,749,976. School department $34,768,535. Again, the total being $119,518,518,511. $518,511. When the clerk calls your name, all in favor signify by saying aye or yes. All opposed, nay or no.
Bartolo. Bell. Berube. Brown. Camuso. Chaporis. Connors is not here. Costello. Cottom. Cross. Curry. Davis. Delios. Doherty. Dunn. Federico. Ferrari. Goodwin. Grabowski. Herman Durant. Hickman. Kelly. Long. Lepresti's not here. Manugian. McCarthy. McCullough. Meredith. Mareshi is not here. O'Brien. Paleshi is not here. Palumba. Panetta. Panico. Paolini. Parlente. Rakinnick. Ring. Rossetti. Sacco is not here. Shenna. Scazzarella. Scazzarella abstained. Shelkowski is not here. Spencer. Strasnick. Taligan. Thompson. Wallace. Whitcomb. Worthley. The yeas are 39, nays are 3, absent is 6, and 1 abstain.
All right, with that, Article 2 has passed. As a courtesy to the Planning Board, Mr. Kelly moves Article 31 for consideration. I'm sorry, Article 21 for consideration. All right, to see if the town will amend the zoning bylaws of the town of Saugus by adding the following. Amend Article 22, Special Requirements for Marijuana Establishments, Section 22.4, Eligible Locations for Marijuana Establishments, by adding the following under Section 22.4.1A. The following conditions apply for marijuana establishments within the Business Highway Sustainable District, BHSD. Marijuana retail establishments shall be limited to 2 establishments within the Business Highway Sustainable District. 1 marijuana retail establishment shall be located on the northbound lane on Route 1. 1 marijuana retail establishment shall be located on the southbound lane on Route 1. This was submitted by Deborah Panetta and Michael Serino, and we have a recommendation from the Planning Board. The Planning Board met on May 15th and recommended 4-0 in favor of this article, for passage of this article. Do I have a second on the Planning Board's recommendation? All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion on Article 21? Yes, Ms. Panetta.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Deborah Panetta, and I live at 1 Bellevue Street. Selectman Serino and I come before you tonight requesting a favorable recommendation for Article 21, limiting the number of marijuana facilities in Saugus to 2, 1 on each side of Route 1. Just a little bit of history. Town meeting voted back in May 2022 to approve a change amending the town zoning bylaws to allow for adult-use marijuana establishments in our town. At that time, there were 7 establishments that submitted RFIs to the town. These responses were evaluated by the Town Marijuana Establishment Review Committee, also known as MERC, comprised with the town manager, Scott Crabtree, Police Chief Mike Riccadelli, Fire Chief Mike Newberry, Director of Public Health, John Freilich, Procurement Director, Michelle Wendell, Planning Board Member, Jeannie Meredith, and Building Commissioner, Mike LaVecchia. Currently, the Board of Selectmen voted for 2 S2 permits. The first one that came before us that we voted in favor of was Sanctuary Medicinals, and that's where the 99 is. And then there was, so out of the 7, 1 was chosen. 2 were recommended by the Merck Committee. Uma Flowers, that is next to the Army-Navy store, so if you're looking at the Army-Navy store, it's to the left. They sued the town because they needed 4 votes from the Board of Selectmen, where they received 3, not 4. They sued the town, they went before a judge, they came back before the Board of Selectmen, and they did receive at that time the 4 votes. So there are 2 right now, 1 on each side of Route 1. Now I'd like to talk about the issues. The amount of time and effort that bringing marijuana into our town has been substantial. We have spent tens of thousands of dollars in lawsuits, not just with the Uma Flowers, but we have another pending lawsuit as well that the town manager is dealing with. We have seen no benefit to date. All we've seen is expenditures that we've been paying for. Lawsuits, expenditures, and time and effort. The amount of time that department heads, the town manager, has spent on marijuana has been huge. It's also important to note that in 2022, there was a state law requiring that all municipalities to document and justify these impact fees, linking them to actual costs imposed by the cannabis business. I'm sure many of you read that Boston and other communities had to pay back cannabis because cannabis places because they could not justify what they would be charging, which was up to 3% of gross income. They couldn't justify it and they had to give it back. I think this is especially important for our town since the 3rd dispensary on Route 1, because that's the only place we could put it is on Route 1, would not add any additional impact revenue for the town. So why are we going to have a 3rd dispensary in our town? In closing, I think Saugus should focus on the 2 establishments that were given S2 permits and not look to bring a 3rd or 4th or 5th marijuana establishment in our town. We need to stop the bleeding and stop the lawsuits. There is no public need to have 3 marijuana establishments in town. Right now, Selectman Serena will talk about the calculation and how many we're allowed to have. It looks like it's 2.4. But rules change all the time. State statutes and regulations change. And I want to do whatever we possibly can to protect our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Panetta. Any further discussion? Mr. Sereno.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, ladies and gentlemen. Just to reinstate what Selectman Panetta, Chairman Panetta said, 53% of the voters in town didn't support this in 2016. It was 53 against marijuana facilities and 47% for. The revenue, I looked at, based on the revenue projections, I went to the Department of Revenue, Mass Department of Revenue site, and I analyzed all the surrounding communities in Saugus, from Saugus all the way up to the New Hampshire border. And out of nine towns, cities and towns that sell it, from 2022 to 2024, 6 out of the 9 have lost revenue, and only 3, usually the cities, improve their revenue, but very slightly. So the revenue isn't there. And as you get, right now we have Cappy's on Route 1, we have across from Lowe's, we have in Melrose. So any more than 2 facilities on Route 1 in Saugus, and that's what town meeting voted to approve, it's only gonna divide the revenue up among any more than 2 facilities. If we approve 4, it's just gonna divide the revenue up around between the 4 instead of the 2, so you're not gonna see any significant increase. And Deb spoke about the lawsuits. You know, we've been getting sued. Now we're trying to get sued for another license that we really don't have. The licenses are based on Chapter 138, Section 15. They're based on how many package stores that we have in the community. Now, right now, Saugus has 12 allowed, 6 beer and wine, and 6 malt and liquor. So we have 12 package stores that we can approve in this town. And the numbers of marijuana are based on that, and it's 20% of the 12 package stores that we can have in Saugus. So that comes out to 2.4%. So it's my understanding that we're being sued for a third license, which we don't have. We only can be allowed 2. So that's why we're supporting this. I think it's important that taxpayers shouldn't be paying for legal fees for these establishments that want to sue. I think we need to protect the town, and I hope you do support the one on the northbound lane and one on southbound lane. That's all we really need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Serino. Any further discussion? Yes.
Martin Costello, Precinct 10. I'm going to support this article. I don't want to be an impediment to free enterprise. And I'm fully aware of the fact that the town has suffered with regard to litigation in the past in trying to prevent these establishments from setting up shop here in Saugus. My only concern is that we end up with a limitation of the 2, that they don't end up expanding and put a lounge in there. And I say this because this article appeared in the Globe not too long ago. Most of these establishments are not doing well. There is an oversupply of cannabis now, and from what this article goes on to say, some of it is fairly more significantly powerful than what perhaps some of us used to get a nickel bag or a dime bag years ago when we were rolling around in high school. But anyway, point of information, I did smoke grass from time to time. But anyway, the industry in and of itself right now is, as the article says, struggling with an oversupply and money woes. But the crux of the article is that we get these things done, we stop the litigation, we don't have an expansion where there will be lounges there and people can go in, get high, and get in their car and go on Route 1 because it's already a horror show out there now. So I'm going to support the article so long as the limitations stay in place. I just want to have a confirmation of that from the chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Costello. Ms. Panetta?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just getting up to answer the town meeting member from Precinct 10's question. Yes, that's what this article is all about, to have only 2 dispensaries, 1 on each side of Route 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Panetta. Mr. Serino.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, ladies and gentlemen. Just one quick thing I wanted to add since this last speaker mentioned about changing the rules. There's another reason why we want to just limit it to 2, because the state legislature could change the law to allow more than 20% based on the package stores. So we need to protect the town that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Serino. Any further discussion on Article 21? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christy Tallaghan. I'm from Precinct 8, and I'm new here. I was an educator for 30 years in Chelsea Public Schools. I now own a business. I'm a compliance trainer for the Cannabis Control Commission. I've trained 10,000 agents in regulatory rules and regulations. So I do support the two on each side of the highway, but I must say that these businesses are like any other business. There are strict regulatory control issues that they have to amend. They are not doing well, some of these businesses. And yes, I think we lost the wave of revenue. In the beginning, there was a lot of revenue to have, with the cannabis businesses, but at this point, no, they've changed the regulations at this point. So I do support it, but I must say there are some very reputable businesses out there, and yes, there are some that I work with that are not. So as far as litigation goes, there's a lot of that, a lot of litigation for a city to come in. But again, there are some great establishments that are good to have in town, but I do think they should be limited to 2.
Thank you, Ms. Culligan. Further discussion on Article 21? Yes. Certainly. Jeannie?
Jeannie Bartolo, Precinct 6. I just want to say thank you to Deb and Mike, because you've kept this out of our neighborhoods. And if we have to have it, I can handle Route 1. But you kept it out of our neighborhoods and our squares, and I want to thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie, for your comments. Any further discussion on Article 21? Mr. Manoogian?
Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, Peter Manoogian, Town Council has often said to me, when have you ever seen town meeting make a mistake, right? Have you used that phrase? Well, I think when we went against the wishes of the voters that said no, they didn't want marijuana in Saugus, I think town meeting did go against the wish of the voters and did make a mistake. So those of you that were here, if you recall, we had a PowerPoint presentation showing all the parks and playgrounds and the conditions that they were in. And the nexus was made between adopting marijuana for Saugus and rehabilitating our parks and playgrounds. Do you remember that? In schools and so forth. Never has so much been spent in money and time to gain so little. Those that complained about the town manager supposedly dragging his feet on the West Side Fire Station or rebuilding the parks and playgrounds, he was spending time working with this MRF committee on planning out, following the reg on marijuana, how to establish it. When the original article went before the planning board, there were going to be buffer zones. But it was said at the planning board by the proponent, a member of the Board of Selectmen, there's going to be an amendment at town meeting. An amendment was made at town meeting by a person, a member who's no longer with us, who was absent that night. I've never seen it before in my life, where a member in absentia can make an amendment to a zoning article. And what did that amendment do? It wiped out buffer zones. It wiped out the buffer zone to Hawk Street, Precinct 7. Why? Because there was a place that was going to get a marijuana establishment, right? And the Attorney General approved that. Said it was okay, because people of Hawk Street never had notice that that amendment was going to be in there. That night, the former superintendent, and a member of the school committee got up and spoke on the article, essentially supporting the article. And so, yes, Mr. Town Council, I have seen a time when town meeting made a mistake, and this was it. So I thank the members as well for putting this zoning amendment in front of us, and I hope this puts an end to the bleeding. Look, you just voted a budget last week that shows more money that had to be put into the legal department to defend us. And there's still lawsuits going, aren't there? There's still lawsuits on marijuana, and we haven't seen a red cent. Nothing went into the parks and playgrounds that were on that PowerPoint that night. So let this be a lesson for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manoogian. Any further discussion on Article 21? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of the planning board's recommendation? Yes. Yes, that they voted 4 to nothing to recommend. Yes. All in favor of the planning board's recommendation to support Article 21. I'll just read this again quickly. Amending the Town of Saugus bylaws by adding the following under Article 22, special requirements for marijuana establishments. Section 22.4, eligible locations for marijuana establishments, by adding the following under Section 22.4.1A. The following conditions apply for marijuana establishments within the Business Highway Sustainable District. Marijuana retail establishments shall be limited to 2, with one on the within the Business Highway Sustainable District, 1 on the northbound side of Route 1, 1 on the southbound lane of Route 1. And again, the Planning Board has voted favorably in favor of this article. We did have a call for a roll call vote, so when the clerk calls your name, I is in favor of their recommendation to support it, and B is opposed to the article. I mean, nay or no is opposed to the article.
Bartolo. Bell. Berube. Brown. Camuso. Chaporis. Connors is not here. Costello. Cottam. Cross. Curry. Davis. Delios. Doherty. Dunn. Federico. Ferrari. Goodwin. Grabowski. Herman Durant. Hickman. Kelly. Long. LaPresti is not here. Manoogian. McCarthy. McCullough. Meredith. Mareshi is not here. O'Brien. Paleshi is not here. Palumba. Panetta. Panico. Paolini. Parlante. Rakinnick. Ring. Ring is not here. Rossetti. Sacco is not here. Shenna. Scazzarella. Shelkowski is not here. Spencer. Strasnick. Taligan. Is that a yes? I'm sorry. Thompson. Wallace. Whitcomb. Worthley. 42 yeas, 0 nays, 7 absent.
Article 21 has passed. And with that, we've concluded all of the business on the annual meeting, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion made, seconded. All in favor? Opposed? I didn't think so. We will be reconvening on June 2nd for the third special meeting that we had scheduled. That's the one on the just one article, the MBTA overlay zoning. The Planning Board's going to be meeting on that in sometime next week, and we'll meet on the 2nd to wrap up our business for the year. In the meantime, I hope everybody has a tremendous Memorial Day holiday. Enjoy the weather, and we'll see you back here in a couple of weeks. Thank you.